Hey guys, this is a video about the Aztech, Muzzletek and Hellfire hop-ups. A little bit about setting up, installing and tuning, and probably more than likely taking apart so that you can service it if you need to. So for those of you that don't know, Aztech have got three external hop-ups that go on the end of your outer barrel. Got the Muzzletek long, Muzzletek short and the Hellfire. Now they all screw on to the 14mm threads at the ends of your gel blaster barrel. They do not mount to the inner barrel, they mount to the outer barrel. They all use 14mm reverse thread in this end here. And generally most of your metallic gel blasters and a lot of your high-end plastic gel blasters have got a 14mm thread on the end. The biggest variation of this thread is the quality of the thread on the gel blaster. Now that's why we've got a range of blasters here to talk about. The biggest issue normally is when we take off the device from the standard gel blaster is the amount of paint that is in the thread on the gel blaster. These are all cut out of 6061 aluminium. They're CNC cut, so they're all the same. They're all 14mm reverse thread. Now the variation comes in the quality of the threads on your Chinese made gel blaster, okay? So we're gonna talk about the hops themselves, fitting them, and go from there. So the most popular that we've had for some time is the Hellfire. Now it looks like a muzzle brake from the end of a real firearm. So if we look at something like the Scar V2 here, it has a muzzle brake style device. If you look at the MPX here, it has a different kind of side port muzzle brake. So the Hellfire looks like a side port muzzle brake with the top ports, screws on using the 14mm thread, and then of course the main feature of these, all three of these hop-ups, is the toolless adjust. Whilst they use a 1.5mm Allen key to lock onto your outer barrel using these grub screws, it uses a toolless adjust. The Hellfire, the front cap turns. So as you can see here, this front cap turns up to 90 degrees and all the way back again. Generally, we only ever need to run around about 1, 2, 3, maybe a fourth click, but extremely unlikely. I've never seen anyone run even close to full hop. Same for our Muzzletek short, which is a pistol specific hop, and our Muzzletek long, which is a rifle specific hop. Both of them have 14mm reverse thread in the end. Both of them have an adjuster ring, this is the top here, in the end. So you can hear that click. That is to stop this for self-adjusting. That won't turn unless you quite forcefully make it turn. And then we have a concealed end cap here that comes off of the end of both Muzzleteks, but not the Hellfire. This allows you to run a tracer unit or another muzzle device. Say for example, well that one won't work, sorry. Say for example, muzzle device from another setup, you can screw straight on the end here. So the short version for a pistol is a 14mm reverse thread, the same as the rifle, but it's only around about 8mm deep in the thread section. The rifle version is exactly the same at the output end, but it is longer at the mounting end, and that is because you'll generally find most of your gel blasters, there's a good example, will have up to around about 18 or 20mm of thread here. So your long version screws on there. The short version also has a notch cut out on the bottom, as you can see here. Now that is very, very important that that notch has to go on the lower under your barrel, because when your pistol slide retracts, you have the guide rod. Now that notch has to allow the guide rod into it. If you don't have that notch, there's a chances are your slide will jam up. As this travels back with it, it will lock up your pistol. It's got to be able to retract into that notch. Okay, so let's fit one up and have a bit of a look. So let's look at pistol first. This is a Aztech, so we need an 11mm clockwise adapter. Aztech make them, and they also come with the Aztech lighter C tracer unit. So it screws straight into the end of your Aztech outer barrel. Align the threads, screw them in, tighten them down. Now it's very important to, of course, make sure that's tight, because if not, it will rattle loose. Then we can screw on our Aztech tracer, which is a 14mm reverse thread. I'll just recap on that. This thread here is the thread for your hop. It's the thread your tracer uses, so that tracer will screw straight on the end of your blaster, your rifle blaster, without a hop up. This one then allows your hop up to screw straight on to the adapter. All the way around, so this notch goes to the bottom. See there? That is our alignment, pretty nice and straight for our notch. Then we use our Allen key grub screws on the side to tighten these down. Doesn't have to be tight, just snug it down. That grabs onto the threads, and that will stop our hop from turning, and then we can of course make adjustments on the go. That will ensure our hop doesn't bind up, because our notch gets, well, with this adapter it doesn't even get close. With our adapter it gets a bit closer. Make sure that your guide rod drops into your notch there. If you want to, you can then run the tracer straight on the end. How cool does that look? Okay, so that's pistol. That's the short Muzzletek. Now when we look at our rifles, we've got the Hellfire and Muzzletek long, your rifle setup. They're internally, from this point here to this point here, they are exactly the same. Literally, internally, all of these have the same injection molded ABS tongue. The difference being the length because of this adjuster ring on the end and the depth required, so you can then plug your tracer unit onto the end. So let's fit up a Hellfire to a gel blaster. Here we go, we just go with MPX. So these are all reverse threads, so it's turn it to the right to undo it. Okay, so we'll take our Muzzletek, reverse thread, turn it, screw it on, screw it all the way down so that you can see it starts to bottom out on the thread, but we will revisit this in a second. We want to make sure the logo is at the top there. If you can't get all the way around because of a spring or it bottoms out, that's where our grub screws come in. Okay, so I'm just about to bottom, oh no, I can just get there, but I can't get another lap, okay? So I need to back it off, so the logo and the screws are the top dead center, because your tongue is on the top. Use your grub screws on the side to lock it in so it can't rotate, and then we have our adjustable hop on the end here. And again, we can put our tracer unit on the end. So that screws on beautifully, goes straight onto the APS rifles with pretty much no adjustment needed. Now, what do I mean by adjustment? Well, let's have a look at that now. So screw this one back off. So this is where different blasters, different outer barrels do vary, okay? So with the APS, we'll come back to it, you do get this ring and a spring, which keeps the factory device nice and straight and firm. So this here has that 16 to 18 mil of thread, which is what this is designed to screw straight onto. This is also designed, you can almost see it on the inside of the Hellfire because there's more light passing through. You want to have around about 10 to 12 mil of inner barrel protruding out of your outer barrel, so that your inner barrel aligns perfectly with the start of the hop-up tongue, kind of like that. If your inner barrel is shorter, you will end up with a gap between the thread and your hop. If your inner barrel is longer, where's an example? Here. So Simers, this particular one doesn't want to come off, I'm spinning it the wrong way. Simers all tend to come with a very long inner barrel. So as we can see here, the inner barrel starts down here. So this inner barrel will obviously have to be cut extensively so that you only have around about the 10 or 12 mil of the inner barrel sticking out. So a Hellfire or a Muzzletek will not go straight onto this Simer. The inner barrel must be cut, otherwise the inner barrel will actually hit the back of the hop tongue and more than likely break it. So on the Simer, you're more than likely going to need to shorten it. But for example, this Simer, the M16, it's pretty well perfect. It's a little bit longer than 12 mil, but it should go on there absolutely fine. But you will just need to be cautious as you screw it in, keeping an eye on the inside here. It's a little bit easier on the Hellfire than on the Muzzletek. Making sure that before this thread bottoms out, before it stops threading on, that your inner barrel doesn't smash the back of your hop tongue. And that is now hitting the hop tongue here, and we have not bottomed out. So I would need to back this off so my logo's at the top and grub screw it on nice and tight. Okay, so that works fine on that one. Another variation of setup is this is one of the LDT MCXs. The outer barrel is perfect. In fact, it's a perfect quality thread as well on the outer barrel. But where the LDT range tend to vary, and I don't know if it's all, but definitely MCXs, the inner barrel, let's see if I can gauge it. The inner barrel finishes that far in. So ideally, you want to be extending, putting a longer inner barrel in your LDT to protrude 10 to 12 mil. So it will screw on perfectly, but you've currently got that gap of that far where your gel does not have the support of the barrel before it needs to try and be tamed by the tongue on the hop up. So ideally, we extend the inner barrel on the LDT. Okay, so one thing I do want to point out is, I think this one should go on all right. As we said, a lot of them, this one's an example that's been on the shelf. It's had its muzzle device on and off a million times. But quite often, these threads, as I said at the start, are almost full of paint. You know, the valleys are really rounded off as opposed to a nice sharp valley. So quite often that can stop your, where have they all gone? Your muzzle device from screwing on. Now that one's gonna go on reasonably well. If you find it doesn't go on, use your factory muzzle device on and off, on and off, on and off, a dozen times until it cleans that thread up enough to put your hop up on there. Okay, so that should cover the install and the adjustment and the tracer. Now let's just have a look a little bit on the insides of the hop-ups themselves. As we said, internally they all have the same tongue. The tongue itself goes down the inside. The screw on the top here holds the tongue into place, okay? So that screw is vital to holding the tongue into place. Then the end cap goes on. It has a notch in here that holds the notch on the end of the tongue, like this here. And then from there, the adjuster that's built into here forces the tongue to slide down. Now, inside the hop, you have this silver grub screw, which you probably can't see too well through the bag. It goes down through the top of both hop-ups. You can see it here, and then on the Hellfire in the same spot. Now that grub screw is a very special custom-made grub screw that has a spring and a ball in the end that creates the click. So internally, we have the tongue, we have the locking screw that holds it into place, we have the adjuster that goes onto the end of the Muzzletek, we have the adjuster that goes into the end of the Hellfire, and then the screw that holds the adjuster into place. Pretty simple. All of them are held into place with a low strength Loctite. So if you don't want to risk any of your grub screws, warm them up ever so slightly with a soldering iron or a bit of a flame from heat to break the tension held by the Loctite, and then remove them with ease. Now we have already had a customer come in who has managed, or not managed to, but had Loctited their end cap on and then could not get it off. It is a nice resistance fit. Claimed there was no Loctite on there, but when we boiled it, you could see all the dye from the Loctite pouring out from around here. The whole thing was Loctited on, and there's no chance of getting that off. So if you're going to use Loctite, just use the smallest dab. You only need a tiny drop just to resist any vibration undoing it, unless you never want to take it off again. So that should pretty much wrap up a Hellfire, a Muzzletek long, a Muzzletek short pop-ups that can run through the Muzzletek's the tracer unit, how they attach, how they adjust, how to pull them apart. One thing, of course, if you want to send it back in for servicing or to have a new tongue put in, we can of course do that for you, so post it in. It is important, like we said, to make sure your inner barrel doesn't stick out more than 12 millimeters or so. If it does, it will more than likely damage the back of the hop tongue. If it is, we just replace it. Hope that answers your questions. For those of you running the Muzzleteks, hope you're enjoying them. We've been getting some fantastic feedback. They run outstanding, we love them, and we're very excited that you guys are enjoying them and loving them too, and coming back for more. So jump online, get them while you can. We have more being made, but they're extremely popular. Thanks very much, guys.